I'd find something like this, like these new range dividers at the Grand. You can get a 2x4 even, and just put your foot up like this and get used to what it's like to feel nothing go in that direction. Putting pressure in a place to where when I make my turn, I'm just adding pressure to where it already exists.
I feel if I get that bump, so that then allows me to turn this way, and it feels like there's this Grand Canyon space here where you could just drop that in there and release it.
This was where we started now a couple days ago. You know, we've had 3 hours of working since then, but I wanted to just, you know, not only remind you of the things you need to work on, catch our viewer up on where we've gone this week with our games. So, and I just like to know where that upper body is according to the golf ball. You know, you can see that his spine angle is completely behind that ball. And, you know, we did that with you with an 8-iron, and we saw that, you know, you were not too far off, but if anything, there wasn't enough shape in your setup there to help you promote that big turn that we talked about, that nice coiled up turn. So, you know, our checkpoints were this. That spine angle was not happening because we tilted back, our upper body back. It's happening because that hip, the outside of it's right on the inside of the foot, and that creates that brace. We can look at see the outside of this hip right here, more down to the foot, it's more of a post, so that hip bump taking place towards the target sets that spine angle perpendicular to the belt line or pelvis, and that's what creates what we call that secondary tilt. Now, we know that is the key to unlocking the turn. And I love what, you know, we talked about this the last couple of days. We talked about how we really tried to create a lot of pressure on the inside of the right foot. I had a baseball player out here yesterday, and it was like, you know, it's like you're sitting you're on the rubber like this on the pitcher's mound. You're not on the flat top of the rubber. You know, you're on the side a little bit more. Or how about in the batter's box? You're digging in. These guys are digging that back foot in. You're not digging the outside of your foot in. It's the inside. And you said it best. When you do it correctly, what does it feel like to you? It forces you to turn. It forces you to feel like you can stay inside your foot.
You can leap that way.
And that's what you said right away. You said, when I do it correctly, I feel like I can literally push myself open and through the golf ball. Well, here's the big thing. I think, you know, we talk about the lower body, but it's actually what it does to the upper body, to me, that's more impressive about the golf swing when you set up correctly. When you set this up correctly and leave the sternum still, right, you get that slight spine angle. We see Ludwig do it, a lot of guys on tour. Allows you to turn your chest right over the inside of your back foot, applies that pressure. And as you said, you can push off the inside to open up and clear. But the biggest thing for you, and we're going to see that now, whenever anybody gets a little bit this way and loses what I call the anchor point here, we get this way. Well, now the hips have to slide this way, and because the spine is perpendicular to the pelvis, we start to fall back this way. Your hands were always pretty solid, but it was more about your upper body not covering the golf ball. So what we noticed the last couple of days, the minute we did this, you were more centered, but still the pressure shifted to the inside of the foot, but you were covering the ball much better. And what do we notice right away? Your divots have been amazing these last couple of days. You can see, you know, we move off that, and you lose that anchor point. But I think the biggest thing here that's the most obvious between these two swings is just how straight up and down this leg is here, and you can see how much of the outside of your foot you are, and then you can see this hip right here really on the inside of the foot. And that's right there what's allowing him, you can see the angle that he creates here. That right there keeps that pressure inside, and it's important for everybody to see that upper body is just right on top of the inside of that back foot. That's what puts that pressure there. So he has that anchor point. So we talked about this. Look at this. If I drew a line to the outside of his left foot, he doesn't have very far to go to get there. And that's where he can really get his upper body on top of it and cover the golf ball like that. You know, whenever the player has a greater distance to travel to get posted up, well, you can see the pitch of the shoulders. It's just a little bit more up and back than you see marks down and through. Let me explain that. Yours. His. That's the covering motion. The chest literally covering the golf ball. To me, number one, I just love getting, you know, whether it's a seam on the carpet, whether it's you know, a crack in the cement, I don't care. Anything around the house where you can find a straight line, or you throw a club down there, you see the Fairmont strip here. I bump my hip. Now, checkpoint. Outside of the right hip to the inside of the right foot. Checkpoint from this perspective here. I can put my hips and ankles, you know, in line here with the club and tilt over without sitting back behind that. And that's the key right there. Those shoulders will be just past the toes. You create those 2 checkpoints there. You can use the club for both of them to help you line up. We now get the grip out to the left side. We should easily be able to turn and get that club right over the inside of the foot, over that line. That lights up the inside, okay? So with Luke, we had to, and he'll say this too, we had to bump the hip once and then bump the hip twice.
And go back and
Exactly.
rebump.
And rebump, yeah.
And then once we rebump, we had heaps of room to turn in there.
There you go. There you go. And you can see this is the move, that we talked about. So right there, everything would kind of bump out and see the right leg, the right knee going towards the golf ball. So we worked really hard on keeping that right cheek back as the left one was clearing and opening up. And we'll talk about this in the down the line view. We're working on keeping the space here, not letting the right knee, right hip, right side get up in front of your arms and hands, which would always bump them out a little bit. And then your upper body going this way was what would actually shallow the club and get it on plane. It's not going to be a consistent ball striker like that. We then get more this way. We feel this right knee, this right hip stay this way and not move towards the golf ball. Boom. And that's all. See, explain what you're feeling right there when you say all that room, because people are looking for that. They get jammed up.
Yeah,
what do you feel?
I feel if I get that bump and hold that there, I can look down and see my knees inside my foot like that.
Yep.
So that then allows me to turn this way and get really deep, and it feels like there's this Grand Canyon space here where you could just drop that in there and release it. And
exactly.
You're not going to get stuck with anything.
2 ways to really not feel that. Number 1 is, you just don't turn. You move into your right side, and we talk about this. Every inch of sway is going to take rotation away. This hip moving out here is a lock to your upper body's ability to turn. And that's where the arms will start to pick up and get behind you. Well, that's already a stuck feeling and jammed up that I'm not able to clear through. So just having the sternum looking at my hands back here, wow, all that space. So,
and with that bump, it lets you almost indirectly sort of started the turn. Like you've got the room. You're
100%.
Just there, and it's just...
It's funny you say that.
It's round you go.
My dad was actually, we did our last clinic in September. Got one coming up this next week out here. And Dad said that. He said, when you're setting up, you should almost feel your turn before it even happens. Like when that hip bump starts, it's like, oh, that's your initiation to being able to open up that turn. And I really believe, you see, Ludwig does it right before he pulls the trigger. He gets in there, not natural for him right away. Boom. Okay, there it is, right? And that's what I do too. Be the last part of like, oh, by the way, your scar tissue's been built up of this over the years. No matter how well you're turning, no matter how well you're connected at the top, some people just have a little bit of a reaction to the ball that way. And hey, we can just defeat that with good rehearsals. It's interesting. Tom Watson used to say like he would drive his right knee behind his left knee. As his lead leg was opening, he was keeping this one back longer. I always like the thought of just the right leg never moving towards the ball. Of course it's going to happen to some degree, just not that we're actively trying to make it happen.
Which we were working on yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And for you, there's some where, yes, the pressure builds here and you're pushing off, and you can push to open your lead hip so far that way that it prevents your right from going that way. But I did think for you, because of the tendency to want to go that way, you needed to feel more in here and feel the heel to heel motion. And one thing that I used to do a lot, I'd find something like this, like these new range dividers at the Grand. You can get a 2x4 even and just put your foot up like this and get used to what it's like to feel nothing go in that direction, okay? So a lot of times over the last couple days, he would do his rehearsal, and I think a lot of people are guilty of this. They do the rehearsal, and then their hips go back. So we had to kind of remind him to, hey, bump again. There we go, looks good. Yeah, how about that, huh? Stripes. I know, yeah, look at, come on in. This is the part that we saw yesterday. And on Bermuda grass, you don't always see the cleanest divots because it's a good range grass in this warm weather.
But again, as long as I feel like I've got that load into that left side, you get the bump in place and keep it there.
That's the key for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay over it.
There you go.
Keep that bump it again and keep it there.
Yeah.
With a good bump, you can't help but take your right butt cheek that way.
Exactly.
It's really hard to go that way laterally with everything loaded in here.
I 100% agree, and I think the way that you can feel this, is this. When you bump your hips, you're creating pressure points. I really feel like I'm really on the flat of my foot, like right through the middle of my foot. That's where the majority of the weight is, on my left foot. Now on my right foot, my trail foot, I don't even feel the right side of my foot on the ground. I know it is, but I really feel the inside right there, like I'm on a running block or something along those lines like that, where I'm really digging in. Now, if you were to see me in a fairway bunker, you don't even see the outside of my right foot touch the ground. You see that inside really dig in. So I'm putting pressure in a place to where when I make my turn, I'm just adding pressure to where it already exists. And I think that's the key for you. Don't lose that feeling.
That pressure in the ball
exactly
with the right foot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's flush.
It is. At Forzak Golf, we take a lot of pride in having developed some of the best and most consistent golf swings on the planet. We do this through simplicity. Our Full Swing Masterclass will take you on a step-by-step, easy-to-understand process on how to get your golf swing better than ever. Join the many before you who've utilized our Full Swing Masterclass to take their games to the next level and beyond.